Yep, we'll wait one more minute, folks. 7:03. There it is. And we are going to get started this evening. I know there's going to be a few folks probably coming in just a wee bit after 7, but thank you for joining us this evening. Our speaker series taking place on Tuesday, May 5th. Who knew it was May 5th already? Feels a lot wetter. Anyhow, my name's Nancy Howell, and I am on the board of Western Cuyahoga Audubon, and I've got several things that I'd like to cover before we get, and some of our other board members will also speak this evening. Lots of things happening. We do need some volunteers for upcoming events, and then we have some things of interest and a special volunteer request and other volunteer opportunities. So as you can see, we need volunteers for certain things. One of the items that's coming up this coming Saturday is Earthfest 2026, taking place in Rocky River at the West Shore Unitarian Universalist Church. And I know I'll be there pretty much all day. So from 10 until about 3-ish, we will have volunteers with a table set up similar to what you see on the slide. That is actually an outdoor event, but the Earthfest 2026 takes place indoors. So should the weather be inclement, we will have a nice dry place. But yeah, what we do is talk about Western Cuyahoga Audubon. We have a little game that we have for the kids and families and information. So if you're interested, please note we have 2 shifts. One from 10 in the morning to 12:30 and 12:30 to 3. So it's a really, really nice place. I really enjoy doing this one. One of the other items that we have going on is or that we going on, but we have going on, but Audubon, National Audubon has a a set of YouTube videos. The first one was on the boreal forest, and this is about birds and migration. I believe they're up to episode 3 already, but you can see all of the episodes by subscribing to the Audubon YouTube channel and go through all of these documentaries. I think some of our board members have seen the some of the some of the videos already. I know I was able to watch the first one, have not gotten through some of the others, but time is time is fleeting all the time. But I hope you can join that, and see what National Audubon shares with us about the birds on migration. I have my internet is connection is slow, so I probably have I don't know if I'm moving or not. Hey, am I on, folks? Am I
Yes,
moving? Okay,
yes.
good. It came back. Sorry, I think some of this probably is cut off, but an exhibit at the Cleveland Museum of Natural History is called Fashion and Feather. It's a collaborative between the museum as well as the Kent State University Museum and the School of Fashion. And it's awesome. Now, what I have in the photo there is an older dress with feathers on it. The things that have come from some of the museum's collections, both the Kent State Museum as well as the Natural History Museum, how feathers have been used in fashion. The best part is the students at the Kent State School of Fashion designed outfits that have no feathers on them at all. They're made out of fabric only, and they're biomimicry inspired designs, and they are so fun. The students each chose a species of bird, did the research, and then created their outfit, their fashion outfit about that bird. And I just think it's fun, hilarious. And I will tell you, there is one that I would put on in a minute. So if you are able to get there, the exhibit is located in the main visitor lobby, and then also upstairs in the Corning Gallery. Yes, you do have to pay a museum admission if you want to be able to see the outfits that are the fashion that are in the Corning Gallery, which is upstairs. But the visitor gallery, the visitor hall is free to anybody coming in, but
Oh.
that's not where all the fashion items are. So if you get a chance to go, it's just really fun. We have a volunteer request again and again with the Cleveland Browns Stadium actually breaking ground to start building. And yes, I know there was an article last week about the architect of the building. And if I can get my hands on his name, which I will, and the company, I will see if I can get him to get bird safe windows put on this building. As you can see, there's a lot of windows that are going to be and reflective surfaces that are going to be on the building. Um, Again, every little bit helps. Hopefully, no birds will crash into, or very few will strike the bird-friendly windows if we can get the architect and the builders to include those in the design or in the construction. So we need your help making phone calls, writing letters, sending emails, that type of stuff. Let me know. You can see Nancy Howell at wcaudubon.org. So hopefully we can get at least one more building with bird safe windows. We need lots of volunteers, photographers for our bird walks and events and more. These photos would be of participants, scenery, the birds, and these would be used in our publications and social media. Of course, we're always wanting to raise funds and friends, so maybe have some great ideas for some events that we can get together. Articles for the newsletter. Maybe you've read a good book. Maybe you want to write a little bit of a natural history on a species of, could be birds, could be plants, could be a place you visited. Um, New voices for our newsletter is welcome. And of course, we always need board members to help with, well, first of all, fresh ideas. There are lots of things that we could be doing out there. We just don't have enough personnel. So please let us know if you're interested in any of those items or more. Maybe you have some ideas. And of course, keep informed. We have our newsletter that you can sign up for through MailChimp that arrives approximately weekly. They're e-newsletters and it has updates on happenings. And of course, we always like members of Western Cuyahoga Audubon. Thank you.
Wow.
Well, Michelle Brocious is not available to be here this evening, so in her spot, Marianne Romito will be chatting about. Take it away, Marianne.
Okay, Nancy, you're going to have to change the slides for me since I don't have that
Okay.
capability.
All
But we're going
right.
to talk about our upcoming bird walks and our social media. Our first bird walk, back up. Is this our first bird walk is the second Saturday bird walk, which is on Saturday, May 9th at 9 o'clock. And the location is going to be the little Cedar Point picnic area. So we have to meet there because there's something going on at the nature center that prevents us from using that parking lot.
Yeah, they're having their plant
Um,
sale that day.
okay. Next slide.
There it is.
Okay. This and then we have the spring bird walks that we sponsor. There's three of them, no, two of them.
Two.
Lake Isaac and Rocky River Nature Center. Lake Isaac is usually led by Nancy, and Rocky River is led by Bill Deininger, Bill Grass Kemper, and no,
Dave
Dave Grass
Grasskemper.
and Al Rand, I think, too.
Mhm.
But I don't know. Anyway, that one meets the next two Sundays, May 10th and May 17th. We meet at 7:30. Next.
There it
And
is.
then we have our urban bird walk, which is this time it's going to be at the West Creek Conservancy Hemlock Creek Trail. And the day is going to be May 23rd, and it's at 9 a.m. Please come
Love
join
that
us.
trail. It's beautiful. I hope we have really good sightings.
Good. Okay, and then we also have a bird walk on May 30th in Brecksville at 8 o'clock. And you meet at the Brecksville Reservation on Chippewa Creek Drive. And the leaders are going to be Michelle Brocious and Andrew Steinman. Next. Oh, and another one. Another field trip is going to be on Saturday, June the 6th at 8 o'clock at the South Russell Village Park on Bell Street in Chagrin Falls. And that's going to be led by Michelle and Bob Oper.
And that's bobolinks. Yeah, so that's a good one. Look at that
Bobolinks and
beautiful.
buttercups.
Yep, look at that beautiful bobolink.
Okay. And then please follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, we're on Blue Sky, we're on Instagram, and we're on YouTube.
Yay, you know them all, Marianne. And look at that beautiful scarlet tanager. Woo,
Oh, isn't he
woo.
pretty? He's my
Yeah.
favorite.
Thank you so much, Marianne. She'll be back for another in another minute or so. But now we have Drina Nemes, who is our book discussion series coordinator. Drina, are you there?
Unmute.
Sorry about that. We've just finished up season 6, and I found all the books to be really quite fantastic. At the top of the slide, you can see that there is a link, and you can hook up then with all of our discussions from the past 6 years. So we read a book by Tor Hansen, Close to Home, and then we had Wild America, Roger Tory Peterson and James Fisher, and then we had a sequel to Wild America by Scott Weidensaul, Return to Wild America. Next slide, please. And if you didn't get a chance to read the book, or if you haven't also had a chance to check out this video, it just happened in February that the Roger Tory Peterson Institute was able to digitize videos from Roger Tory Peterson and James Fisher's 1953 trip. And it is about 55 minutes. And you will find that it's not what we're accustomed to in this day and age with our sophisticated video and graphics, but it is a wonderful presentation and getting to hear Roger Tory Peterson speak. Also get some of his very dry humor. So it's a wonderful video. Next slide, please. Then, as a kind of a takeoff from Scott Weidensaul book, Return to Wild America, his newest book, Return of the Oystercatcher, was just recently released, April 21st. And he's going to be at the big week next year, next Monday, 4 to 5 p.m. at the Lodge, and registration is required. And then just last night, I happened to come across BWD Magazine Birdwatchers Digest, just the current issue, and there is an excerpt from his Return of the Oystercatcher right there with some beautiful pictures. And it definitely demonstrates the optimism that Mr. Weidensaul is feeling with what's going on with caring for birds at this point in time, despite all the other things that seem to be working against our feathered friends. Next slide. Well, next season, we have a tentative schedule. It's usually on the 3rd Tuesday, so October and then January and April next year. And books will be selected soon. I don't have them yet. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank you, Drina. Yeah, and we're always looking for some good reads. If you have a thought, something that is easily accessible at libraries, that would be awesome. Or online, perhaps audiobooks, that type of thing. Thank you so much again, Drina. Boy, that close to home with from Tor, that seemed like so long ago that we read
Yeah,
that. I don't know
right.
why.
Yes.
Yeah. Amanda is working the polls tonight, so her information about bird-friendly coffee, I will tell you a little bit more. For those of you who are not familiar with it, Birds and Beans Coffee, 100% Smithsonian certified, bird-friendly. We sell that at you can order it, I should say, on our website. We order 4 times a year. The next order will be going in July. I know that sounds far away, but it's not that far. Um, the thing is that the uh, coffee plants that are grown in these areas are maintained so that there's a forest canopy. So the coffee plants are growing under the canopy, which provides habitat, food for the birds that spend our summers here, but spend much of their non-breeding season down in Central and South America. So it helps the birds. We have a bunch of different roasts and grinds and sizes of bags of the coffee. And the best part is when you order it and when we get enough orders in, we don't have to pay for shipping. Yay. And Amanda will deliver it right to your home or at a meeting place. So you don't have to come anywhere. We get it to you. So really, it's really a good deal. People love it. So I hope you think about it. It is on our website, that information, our coffee club. Aha, Mary Ann, she's back again.
I'm back again, yes. Okay, I'm the Climate Watch coordinator. In case you don't know what Climate Watch is, it's a study you can advance to the next slide. I think I might be able to tell you a little bit. I think no, it's not there. Anyway, Climate Watch is our Climate Watch program. There it is. Our Climate Watch program is going to take place between May 15th and June 15th. According to Audubon's Climate Watch Change Report, Survival by Degrees, up to 2/3 of North American birds are vulnerable to extinction due to climate change. Since 2016, Climate Watch volunteers have collected data which Audubon scientists are able to use to document in a peer-reviewed research that birds are responding to climate change and shifting their ranges. This is kind of important because the birds that we normally see here in our area, we may not see much longer because they're going to start shifting either north or south, depending on the species. But we're helping Audubon document this study by volunteering to do point surveys. And if you're interested in helping me, you can watch this video that's on here. So take a picture of this screen, or give me a call or write me an email and let me know that you're interested. What we hope to do is that, well, you have any time between May 15th and June 15th to do the surveys, but we're hoping that we can do a big day on May 16th and get a lot of people out and get it one and done and get it over with. So if you've got questions, you can send me an email or send me a text and let me know.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Appreciated.
Mhm.
Yeah, and Mary Ann coordinates how many counties do you have people in?
I think it's about 8.
8 counties, yeah. So, yep. And we're getting close to the end of this, folks. Bear with us. Our June members program is you, our members. We have a picnic and a plant exchange and a bird walk. Our picnic takes place at the Lagoon Picnic Area and Shelter House off of Valley Parkway in the Rocky River Reservation. It begins at 6 o'clock and we'll have a charcoal grill.
Oops. We have a charcoal
Whatever
grill at
utensils.
6 p.m. Okay.
Yeah, 6 p.m.
You kind of blipped out there, Nancy. I thought I'd carry on for you, but not
Oh,
too bad.
okay.
Keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, I keep flipping out here. As I mentioned, a plant exchange. So any indoor plants that you have extra, outdoor plants, seeds, bulbs, preferably native plants, but whatever. Shrubs, trees, you name it, we'll find a home. All need a good home. So you do not have to bring plants to take plants. I've gotten some really, really nice things at the plant exchange, and I hope other folks have too. I will have cardinal flower to bring. So have dinner, peruse the plants, take a short bird walk, and really enjoy our June evening then. But this evening, we have actually a twofer. We have Brett Rodstrom and Danielle Dejak from West Creek Conservancy, and there's just so much that is going on at West Creek Conservancy. So I just want to oh boy, that's a lot to read, but Brett joined the West Creek staff in January of 2023 as Director of Conservation. He has more than 20 years of conservation experience to the organization and invested in the West Creek mission. He grew up in Lake County, now lives in Cuyahoga County. For the last 17 years, Brett has worked to protect and restore more than 14,000 acres, created dozens of publicly accessible parks, and has led teams which have raised millions of dollars for conservation and restoration projects in Northeast Ohio. Brett's role is to work with the West Creek team to develop, restore, and link conservation projects focused on water quality and natural resource-based initiatives through regional partnerships in support of community-specific conservation. And we'll be hearing a lot more about that this evening. Danielle joined West Creek Conservancy in May 2025. Ooh, 1 year, yay! As a seasonal natural resource and outreach assistant, and moved into the role of stewardship and outreach coordinator in December of 2025. She brings a strong background in ecological stewardship, community education, and plant care, supported by a bachelor's degree in environmental and plant biology from Ohio University. Danielle manages native plant nursery operations at the Creekside Collaborative Partners, coordinates volunteer events that support nursery tasks, habitat restoration projects, and green infrastructure maintenance. Danielle also helps lead West Creek's Native Seed Library program and contributes to the development of public educational materials and workshops. Danielle has always loved exploring the outdoors, which sparked her passion for protecting natural spaces. Outside of work, she enjoys backpacking, climbing, biking, gardening, and making ceramics. So really, we thank you for joining us, and I'm going to stop sharing. And Brett, are you going to be going first?
Yes, I think so.
Fantastic.
Let me figure this out here on the sharing, and thank you for the intro.
Yeah.
We didn't expect you to read that whole thing. That was
Well,
successful.
I cut it back too.
Thank you. Let me know when that pops up so that I know I'm on track here.
It's looking good.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. As she said, I'm Brett Rodstrom with West Creek Conservancy. I'm the Director of Conservation. Here to talk a little bit about West Creek Conservancy tonight and about the work that we're doing, who we are, what we're doing, and sort of all the tentacles of the octopus, I guess, as we say that we talk about, and all the projects that we're working on all over Northern Ohio. Just a little background on us. See if I can advance this slide. Uh-oh. There we go. So we serve all of Northern Ohio. We're a 501c3 nonprofit organization founded by residents in 1997 and incorporated in 2000. Originally, West Creek Conservancy or the Friends of West Creek was a Friends of group. The idea was that there wasn't a lot of open space protected in Parma. Oops, my slides are automatically advancing. There wasn't a lot of open space protected in Parma, and so they wanted to get together and see if they could protect the last assemblage of open space that was going to become a golf course, I think, at the time. They got together, they were able to do that. The first project was protected in 1998. And since then, they've been working not only in the West Creek watershed in Parma, which is a tributary of the Cuyahoga River, but also in all of northern Ohio, which we've recently expanded in the last 7 or 8 years. The general idea here is we're a land trust. You probably know other land trusts in the area. Western Reserve Land Conservancy is one. I used to work there for 15 or so years. But we all kind of have the same mission. We're looking for protecting and restoring open space. Sometimes that's natural areas. Sometimes that's also agricultural areas too. And we're also doing a lot of remediation and looking at some of the uglier things too, which we'll talk about in a minute. We work collaboratively, always. Partnership, partnership, partnership. You'll hear about that throughout my little talk tonight. It's really about the partners that we work with and the communities that we work with and getting things done as a group instead of going solo on projects, which really sometimes it works, but most of the time it doesn't. We also do a lot of work with recreational trails and greenways. We've been working on several of those in the past couple of years, and bridges. We actually have a bridge right now at our office in West Creek Reservation that's going over West Creek that is sort of a pain for the staff right now, but that construction should be done here in the next couple of months, and we should be good to go. So West Creek Reservation, for those who aren't familiar, there's a graphic going right now that shows the timeline of how this happened. It didn't happen automatically. It was something that the locals came together in the city of Parma and wanted to make happen. Started in 1998 with the first acquisition, which I think was about 80 acres. It's now more than 600 total acres. Tons of interesting habitat there, habitat that's being restored. There's always problems, invasives, and deer management with any project like this, but it is really about building a puzzle. And a lot of these pieces were put together not knowing that they'd ever connect. If you watch where things are connecting here, especially in the early times here, in the early 2000s, there were pieces that were a mile and a half apart that we didn't know if they would be connected, but they were connected. Derek Schaefer and the staff at that time were getting one piece at a time, whether it was 20 acres or 80 acres or 1.5 acres. It really was about finding the key pieces and making sure those pieces were purchased and ultimately given over to Cleveland Metro Parks, which then became West Creek Reservation. And so that's a great success story for what a small group of motivated individuals volunteering can do and come together to not only start this in motion, but also form this into a larger organization that is now doing this exact same thing with the exact same model and the exact same partnership approach across all of Northern Ohio. Again, West Creek Reservation, I think we're all familiar with this. I talked about a lot. The last two big additions were Padua and the Parmandale properties. These were 100 plus acres total, and they really started to branch out. Now, the other thing that we're doing, which is unique in Northeast Ohio, anyway, Northern Ohio, is that we're also buying houses now that are adjacent to the preserve and simply tearing them down and replanting them with native vegetation and native trees. That's a process of de-urbanization. We call that smart decline. We feel, and a lot of people feel that, Parma and Cuyahoga County in general was probably overdeveloped back in the 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s. And we really wanted to make sure that the critical areas that could be saved were saved. That was the first step, but now we're also expanding that. So we're buying, with the help of Cleveland Metro Parks and Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District, any area that's adjacent to West Creek or West Creek Reservation, buying those houses. Those are sometimes $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 houses with beautiful kitchens and marble countertops, and we're buying them. We take them through the Habitat for Humanity process. We get everything out of there that we can. We simply demo those houses and plant trees in their place and add to the reservation. And that is a very unique thing for a land trust to do in an urban setting. But it's made a difference. We've seen some really interesting birds, and some of these birds that we're talking about or have on my list that they're they're not the greatest birds of all time. We're all birders, I realize these aren't all endangered species, but they are critically important to the folks that live in this area. And these birds are the things that people see when they go to this park. And this park helps people become connected with conservation and connected with open spaces. And that leads to the next conservationists and birding folks that we want to have in the next generation come through. And you have to have a place, especially in urban areas, for these things to happen. Otherwise, we lose that conservation ethic, which is so important in our society. So how do we do what we do? Really there are 5 basic tools that West Creek Conservancy utilizes to do our work. Fee simple acquisitions. Fee simple acquisitions are when we buy properties. We also take donated properties, and those properties are anywhere from 200 acres to 0.1 acre house in Parma. All of those help move the organization forward. They don't always all become conservation properties or part of a nature preserve, but they do help fund the organization in many ways. So there are a lot of folks out there that think that they're not sure what they want to do with their home after they pass on. We have folks now leaving those homes to us, and we simply resell them, and the revenue from that helps fund the organization. If they're in an area where it adds to a park, then we'll also tear that home down, plant some trees, and roll that into the park as well. It just depends on the situation, but anything, cars, homes, these are things that are being left to us, and it really helps the organization move the needle forward in terms of our goals. We do a lot of stream and wetland habitat restoration. We do a lot of forest restoration. We do a lot of pollinator and grassland restoration now. These are things that we didn't always do. We really just bought stuff and protected it, but now we're really looking at projects that are broken maybe, or they're landfills, or they're industrial sites that need to be cleaned up. We're taking these on, we're cleaning things up, we're restoring the streams in the property, creating wetland habitat. And when you create that habitat, you'll see, the bird species especially, but also amphibians and everything else shows up. And we're starting to see some very, very interesting species showing up in our properties at this time. We do a lot of trail work. It's not enough. We realized early on that it's not enough just to protect isolated pieces of property. We want to see if we can connect them. The idea is that, and everybody's familiar with the Emerald Necklace of Cleveland Metro Parks, the incredible Emerald Necklace of Cleveland Metro Parks, but we want 2 things from that. We learn 2 things from that. One is that there needs to be connections from inside of that Emerald Necklace, that ring around Cuyahoga County, so that everybody in the community can get to the Emerald Necklace. So we're connecting from the interior of Cuyahoga County out to the Emerald Necklace. But then we also are realizing now, as a conservation organization community and all the organizations that work together, that ring around Cuyahoga County really should be more like Olympic rings, a series of concentric rings that go from Toledo to Conneaut, that have a bunch of connected open space, and not just one ring that, the example for Cuyahoga County was. So we're working with trail systems and other park districts, soil and water districts, Division of Wildlife, Ohio EPA, Cleveland Museum of Natural History, all of the partners that we work with, Holden Arboretum, the Audubon groups, all of them, to figure out what's the next piece of the puzzle. Is it a standalone park? Is it an add-on to a park? Is it a nature preserve that needs to be created? And then how do we connect those together? And then we also do private conservation and agricultural easements. I'll talk about that in a second as well. But these are the 5 basic tools that we use to do our work, in addition to the work that Danielle's going to talk about, which is also amazing too. So fee simple acquisitions. This is a good example of one on the west side here in an urban area. It's actually on the west bank of the Cuyahoga River, so it doesn't get too much more west than that. So we don't always prefer to own land. We work with local communities, whether it's a park district or a village or a city or a township, to buy the parcels and the land that needs to be protected. In this case, this is a big restoration project. We often pre-acquire these, so we'll go out with our money, our own cash, if we have it, or borrow it sometimes as well. We'll buy properties that need to be protected so we can get them off the market quickly, and then work with a conservation organization or park district to figure out how to get our money back and get it over to them and hopefully restored in the process in the long run. We also work with private buyers who want to just sell their land. That family farm goes up for sale in Cuyahoga County all the time. A lot of landowners want to make sure that when it's sold, it doesn't become 45 houses and 6 cul-de-sacs and $2 stores. They don't want that. They call us. They say, we want a conservation outcome, but we also need to sell this. What can we do? We work with them to buy those properties, whether they're 10 acres or 500 acres, and we're trying to buy those and add those to the mix of the conservation work that we're doing in our acquisitions. We work everything we do. When we do it, when it's done, it's always permanently protected. So there's either a conservation easement on it or some deed restrictions to make sure that the work that passed through our our coffers has been permanently protected. Now, not everything that comes through us gets permanently protected. A lot of times there's a house, on a 100-acre farm. We carve off the house and a couple acres, we sell that to private landowners, and the other 98 acres goes to the park district. So it's sort of finding that sweet spot between full-blown development and full-blown preservation. It's conservation. It's right in the middle. Sometimes some land does get developed, and that's all part of that larger master plan that we're working through to make conservation happen in Northeast Ohio. This is Irishtown Bend. Again, 15 individual acquisitions that were old, falling down buildings that needed to be remediated. This was really triggered by the fact that this hillside here that you're looking at was about to slide in and close the shipping channel. The shipping channel, as you can imagine, billions of dollars of economic input is coming in and out of that Cuyahoga River every single year. And if that shipping channel was to close, we would have major problems. So this was really driven by economics. Okay, no big deal. That's all right. What are we going to do with it? So Derek Schaefer, our executive director, went out. He stepped up and said, I'll buy these parcels, and bought them one at a time over the course of 10 years. Bought these parcels, figured out funding with a large group of constituents, and that's the city of Cleveland, it's the Port Authority, it's the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, it's Ohio Public Works Commission, it's Cleveland Metro Parks, all kinds of different partners, not all of them conservation partners, but all these partners came together. This is now a 25-acre site that's going to get terraced and turned into a world-class waterfront park for the city of Cleveland. This is the steel that went in. There was $40 million worth of steel that went into this to put this harbor wall in, to set this back. And there were 2,000 semi-trucks of soil that had to be removed from the site to terrace this effectively so that it wouldn't slough in anymore. A lot of bulldozer work, a lot of trucks, a lot of noise, a lot of dust, but we're on our way, and eventually it's going to look like that graphic on the right, and eventually it's going to look like this, hopefully in 20 or 30 years when the trees are all planted, and it's a world-class waterfront park that Cleveland really sorely needs. So we're pretty excited about this. This is a $100 million project. We're happy that we were able to step up and buy these properties. This came with a lot of extra strings that we didn't foresee. There was 30,000 Irish immigrant artifacts that came out of the site as they were digging. Those all went to Oberlin College. That stopped work for a little bit. We had buildings catch on fire. We had, of course, asbestos. We found old gas station tanks that we didn't know about that were there. There's all kinds of problems when you do an urban project like this, but we kept our eye on the vision. We're keeping our eye on the vision, and this is what it's going to look like at the end of the day. And we're very excited that this is going to be one of our signature parks. And eventually, Cleveland Metro Parks will own this property in perpetuity, and they will connect the towpath. This is the last link that connects the towpath all the way to Lake Erie. This is the missing piece, and we were able to pull this together. So this is a very exciting product for us. At one point, this was when it was sloughing in, I'm led to understand that it was a nesting colony of black crowned night herons, I believe, were in here. We're hoping and we're planting trees to come back, and hopefully they come back afterwards. But again, sometimes we've got to, break some eggs to make an omelet. So this is the end goal, and again, we're keeping our eye on the prize on this project. Just downstream or upstream from that, we've also bought a smaller project. This is a project that we call Zachlon. It's a Zachlon River Landing. This is part of a larger vision for a water trail connection that goes up and down the Cuyahoga River and eventually to Lake Erie. When we buy those urban projects like this, we get all kinds of stuff. There was a building here, which we were going to rehab eventually underneath this bridge, which is again just upstream from Irishtown Bend. But we've turned this now into a ADA accessible canoe and kayak launch inside the building. It was some bad stuff. It was Ohio EPA was involved. We had a lot of remediation there. When Derek first walked into this, he says the floor looked like Skittles. The dirt on the floor looked like Skittles. So there was a lot of stuff that we had to clean up and get out of there. But the idea here again is to have this floating river launch. This has been installed now, as you can see. It's ADA accessible. This will be part of a larger river trail that's not only protecting open space and restoring open space, but also connecting open space. Again, one of the big themes of what we're talking about tonight. Fee simple donations. I talked a little bit about that. Landowners leave their property to us all the time. Sometimes it's the Berman tract here, which was 20 acres on the upper Cuyahoga River. This is in Cuyahoga County. Beautiful trees on it, big swamp complex. This was interesting because we took title of this without a plan. We understood that this was needed. This is a key piece of the puzzle coming out of a state park called Aquila Lake. We didn't know what we were going to do with it, but we took it at the time. And then magically, maybe serendipitously, a year later, the neighbor called us, which we had a connection with, and he said, I'd like to sell you my 60 acres and add it to that. And so we did that. So now it's an 80-acre preserve. There are 62 acres of wetlands on the property. It's the upper Cuyahoga River, and there are tons and tons of waterfowl that come through here every year, including nesting sandhill cranes and a bald eagle's nest and all the great ducks that you would see in March. We had one of our photographers, Amy Pearson, out on the property, and she's been out several times getting photographs for us, and you'll see some of her photographs, some of our other projects later in my presentation here. So restorations, we do a lot of restorations. We take old ditches and turn them back into streams. I always say that farmers, they look at streams as crooked ditches, and conservationists look at ditches as broken streams. And so there's always that back and forth. But when we're able to get hold of properties and get them under contract, we feel obligated, even at our own peril, sometimes an expense and extending the project for another 2 years. But we feel obligated to go out and raise millions and millions of dollars every year so that we can restore streams. This is the Riverwood restoration on the Upper Cuyahoga in the city of Akron. We restored a ton of headwater streams, a former golf course. We weren't able to buy this entire property. We bought the critical parts of this property. I think it's about 60 acres or so. And the rest of it was developed. So this is a project that we were able to come to the table, protect the critical natural resources on site, and still let development happen. There's a condo association here now, and they've got access to open space, and this is a public park. It's an example of finding that compromise again. We're not always able to get the whole project, but when we can, we like to get the crucial stuff and then do the restorations that are critically important to habitat for a plethora of species. Another example of that, this is way out east, far out east. In fact, it's almost on the Pennsylvania line, but this was or is what we call Andover Meadows Preserve. This was a cornfield 3 years ago, and it was for sale, and it came up for sale. It's 119 acres, and we said it's one property away from Pomatuming State Park, a critical birding area, as you all know. We said we need to get this. We need to make sure that we can find funding to restore it, and we did. We worked with NRCS and Asheville Soil and Water Conservation District and a host of partners. Here's the property. It's along the Asheville County or the Pomatuming Valley Greenway Trail, which is an old rail to trails project that's going on right now. And as you can see, it's only one property away from Pomatuming State Park. It's an ideal piece of the puzzle. It's a link. It's already adjacent to something that's protective, and it's only one property away. So we chased this one down. We figured out funding. We worked with H2 Ohio and ODNR to get this one funded, the acquisition, and then also got it restored. I think I've got some restoration photos there, but it's all prairie pothole wetlands now with grassland and meadow habitat. Immediately in the second year, we had sandhill cranes nesting there, a ton of shorebirds in the first year. And now that's transitioning into this. We planted 50,000 trees on this property. So it's going to transition into forest eventually, but it'll be critical swamp forest habitat that we have protected. And eventually it's probably going to go over to Ashtabula County Park District. But you can see cornfield in 2022. And by the time we were done, all these little tiny wetlands that you can see around the perimeter and down the middle, these are all individual wetlands that were created in addition to both pollinator habitat and forest habitat that was restored. Here's a list of all the partners that are involved. Again, it's a partnership approach. Every single project that we do, we bring partners to the table and make sure that we've got all the great minds, all the great inputs, and of course, all the money that we can pull together too to make these things happen. Trails. Again, protecting trails is creating trails and protecting trails and bridges is an important part of what we do. This is Hemlock Trail over the Cuyahoga River. You guys are going to be on this. It looks like in a hike in the next few months. It's an amazing trail in Independence. It's next to another project that we're working on right now, which is the old quarry there, the old Haydite quarry, which we've got some interesting new conceptual plans that we're working on right now. So these trails are important. Again, we're trying to link together things that we protect and create access for communities so that a girl can get on her bike and she can ride safely from her home through her neighborhood to a trail and to a park and be able to get to an area where they can learn about nature or just, put the iPad down for an hour or two. Even that's an incredible win anymore. So we're really focused on the access and not just creating these places and restoring these places, but making them as accessible as possible. This is another quick one, the Pomatumy Valley Greenway Trail, which I just talked about. This came up for sale. This is 7 miles that came up for sale through Ashtabula County. Eventually, this is going to connect Jefferson all the way to Andover. We were able to buy this 2 years ago. Oh, no, we closed on it last year. But it's got all these cool bridges and streams that go through it, and it's an old rail bed. Right now, it's a four-wheeler superhighway, but eventually, this is going to be one of the great connector trails in Northeast Ohio, and we were able to get this for relatively cheap. Now, it's when you're talking about these trails that we're working on, just keep in mind that when you're on a bike path or a paved trail, it's $1 million a mile to do that. And we've run the numbers on that. So that's about $700 for every step you take is what it costs to make that happen. So next time you're on a trail and you're doing some great birding and you're walking from one place to another, remember that every step costs about $700 to make that happen. So just some interesting facts there about that. But this is going to be a fantastic trail system that's going to be a destination in itself. And hopefully it adds to the ecotourism thing that's going on in Ashtabula County. And if you haven't been out east to Ashtabula County, it's absolutely amazing. And it's an incredible place to visit. So I highly recommend getting out east, even though you guys are Western Cuyahoga County. I get it. Conservation easements, I'll go over this very quickly, but conservation easements are legal contracts that we work with private landowners to facilitate. So when a landowner wants to keep their property, but they want to see it protected forever so that when they die, it's still protected, we put this legal tool on the deed called a conservation easement. We work with landowners to work with them to protect their property. We realize that we can't buy everything, right? There's not enough money in the world, and the government or the park district or the county or the city can't own enough to make a difference. So we have to be able to facilitate private lands protection, and that's the tool that we use as a conservation easement. Landowners typically donate these. They get a income tax deduction for that. We hold these in perpetuity and monitor them and then defend them as well. So if we need to go to court because somebody's trying to violate the easement, we do that, and we've got a necessary legal defense fund in place to make sure that that happens. Um, they're typically larger than 15 acres. They're pretty flexible in terms of what the landowner can and can't do. They get to decide that. They get to decide the terms of the easement. They can allow for oil and gas development in some cases, or timbering, maple sugaring, farming. Any of these things can be done. It's really up to the landowner's vision about how they want their family farm or forest lot to be um, protected moving forward. So, we work with them to put these in place, and I think we hold maybe 2,000 acres worth of these now. We do these a lot now in on HOA ground in subdivisions that are being built, and that's a revenue stream for us as well. So we're protecting the open space and letting the developer develop the less critical habitat where we can. Obviously, we'd like to protect everything that we can, but sometimes we can't do that, and so we protect what we can, and those are the compromises that we're willing to make to protect water quality and at least some of the habitat. We steward all those properties. We're out there picking up trash. We're planting trees. We're working on invasive species. All kinds of problems come up all the time. We have water main breaks and things that you wouldn't think about conservation organization has to deal with, dead bodies. It's absolutely insane, the work, the things that come up and the problems that come up on some of these properties. But we're here to make sure, as a land trust, that we're protecting these things in perpetuity forever, so that the next generation can see and experience and enjoy these for whatever outdoor recreation activities they love. Here's the Haydite mine. I talked about this earlier. This is a 100-acre property. We own half of this right now. The City of Independence owns the other half. It's an industrial site that we're working on. It's got this giant, up in the top right corner here, this giant old furnace that used to cook the shale. And when you cook it to a certain temperature, it pops into Haydite, turns into Haydite, which is a gravelly material that they use for different applications on rooftops and things like that. Um, there's a 40-acre lake here, and it's getting deeper and deeper. Eventually, it's going to be about 100 feet deep. The question is, what do you do at this site? There's a Native American burial ground on the site as well. It's adjacent to Cuyahoga Valley National Park. It's adjacent to the towpath and the Hemlock Trail. We see this as an outdoor recreation center, but we're working on a plan for that now and trying to figure out what the best conservation outcome is for this. And it may involve some commercial development. We've talked extensively, believe me, extensively about putting a brewery here too. So, whatever we can do to help everybody get along in life. This is one that I'm working on right now. This is a big one. You've probably seen some snowy owl photos from here. This is 1,200 acres in Lake County. It's the old former Diamond Shamrock site. We're working with the fourth biggest energy company in the world, Occidental, and Oxy is working with us to put in a world-class park on this property right now as they work through the remediation of each of the 22 separate landfills on site. You'll notice a big solar field here. We worked with a collection of partners from Painesville City and Cuyahoga County and City of Cleveland. In 2024, we landed a $129 million grant to put solar panels on a portion of this property, which is that area on the western edge here that you see, and also decommission Painesville City's coal fire plant and turn it into a battery to support the solar array here. There's 2 miles of connection of trails that are 2 miles of lakeshore trails that are going to be connected on the property. There's a full mile of Lake Erie on the property and more than 2 miles of the Grand River. So this is a project, a long-term project we're working on, but at the end of the day, it's going to be over 1,200 acres on Lake Erie, world-class steelhead trout fishing, unbelievable birding. Some of the most interesting birds are happening here. We're turning all the landfill caps into pollinator habitat and grassland habitat. There's more to come on this. We'll be talking about this one over and over for the next 5 or 6 or 8 years, depending on how long it takes. But just a monster of a project that we're working on, both in cost and in needle moving as well. Green infrastructure, just to touch on this real quick, we do a lot of storm water infrastructure work, rain gardens, and some other things that we work with Regional Sewer District on. They're paying for this. We're helping to monitor that. We're planting native trees in these areas, native shrubs. native plants, and this is really happening in our urban zones. We've got a whole staff that is dedicated to that. So I will introduce Danielle now to talk about Creekside Collaborative Partners. I think she may want to switch over, so I will stop sharing. And Danielle, if you want to jump in, and we'll take questions after we're done. I know I just went through a lot of stuff, and you may have questions. We'll take questions at the end and hopefully be able to answer those. So I will stop sharing right now. Danielle, let me know if you're jumping in.
Okay, let me share my screen.
Good, I see it.
Let's see. That looks good still?
Yep, great.
Okay.
Keep going.
All right. So like Brett and Nancy said, I'm Danielle, Stewardship and Outreach Coordinator with West Creek. So I mainly work at our Creekside Collaborative Partners site, which I'm going to talk about kind of what that is. And then we'll also talk about some of the native plants that we carry that you guys are going to be able to purchase from us if you'd like. So the Creekside Collaborative site was Stearns Farm, if you're familiar with that. It's right in the city of Parma in Cuyahoga County, so a really urban area. There's this tucked away 48-acre property that is like a little oasis. So it was the Stearns family farm. And then in the 1980s, the city of Parma bought it from them. There is still the Historical Society managing a little Stearns farm area up at the front of the property, and there's some 4-H and other programming there. And then we do hold a conservation easement on the entire 48 acres. And then I believe just about 5 years ago or so, the city of Parma reached out to us because they wanted us, even though we had the conservation easement, the land was just kind of sitting fallow for about 6 years, and they really wanted us to do something to activate the site. So we'll talk a little bit more about what we're doing to activate it, but our main priority was to make it a very collaborative site, so hence the name Creekside Collaborative Partners. It is really a collaborative hub for different organizations and partners to come together with that same sustainability mindset, conservation mindset, share resources, engage the public, and for people to come and learn about how to use land sustainably. So Brett has talked about our partnership with the Regional Sewer District already, but they are now on this property as well, growing some trees for their green infrastructure sites. We've also had the Cuyahoga Soil and Water Conservation District out doing research. So it really is a great site of collaboration. And then one of the pieces that we have and use the site for is our native nursery. So we use this area to grow native wildflowers, native trees. We are highly prioritizing local ecotype, so that means that we are collecting seeds mostly from trees and plants within the region rather than maybe it's a native plant, but you got the seeds from Minnesota, let's say. They're coming from this area from plants that we know have been here for a long time. They're just really highly adapted to our region. So it should just help them thrive a little bit better. And there's been some cool research on that. And then these plants will go out to our restoration sites or our green infrastructure sites to kind of increase biodiversity even after we've already finished construction. We'll go out and do plantings following that for even a few years. And then we also have 2 plant sales each year to get some of these plants out into the community and to homeowners' properties. So we do have our spring plant sale coming up May 23rd, later this month. And that will also be open online to the public, so you can reserve your plants starting this Friday. So that will be available on our website starting then. And then in this left picture here, you can see 2 of our volunteers smiling away at our nursery. It really is a volunteer-run nursery. I'm the only full-time staff member out there. So it's volunteer-run. We couldn't do it without our volunteers. We have lots of events out there, really 2 to 3 times a week during the growing season. So it's a great space to get your hands dirty and work with plant propagation, even if it's just weeding or sowing seeds or uppotting plants. There's always a whole variety of tasks to be done there. And then kind of grown out of the native nursery, we have our seed library program. So this provides free native seed packets to the greater Cleveland area. This started out with just, we have a lot of properties we can collect native seeds on, and we had extra that we weren't growing, and decided a great resource for the community might be to give those away. So that just started right in Parma with 800 seed packets distributed in 2024. And the demand has just been absolutely crazy for this program. So that has expanded this past year. This past winter, we distributed 12,000 seed packets. We had to bring on Holden Arboretum and got grant funding for the first time to really be able to handle that much demand. And it's just growing even more, just getting more and more requests to have these seed libraries. Now it's in the Cuyahoga County Public Library System and Cleveland Public Library, and getting more requests for additional locations. Also at one Cleveland Metro Parks location and some Lake Metro Parks locations. So it really is all across Northeast Ohio at this point. And then to go along with this program and to kind of have it be full circle, we want people to know how to use native seeds that they're getting. So we do some programming that goes along with it that is for shrinking your lawn and for how to stratify native seeds. And then you can see in that top picture, we've also got a lot of volunteers that help with this program. So even in those winter or like late fall cold months, we have volunteers that help clean the seeds and then helps fill the seed packets, and it's a really fun time. And we will also have volunteer events out on our properties for seed collection this year as well. And then the final prong of how we're using the Creekside Collaborative property is Creekside Field Kitchen. So this, on the left picture here, you can see Steve Baker, our Director of Education. He does agriculture and culinary programming with really K through 12 groups primarily, but also adult programming sometimes too. If you've heard of Spice Catering, Spice Field Kitchen was the nonprofit branch that Steve ran, and he had been on our site for a couple years, and there was some really good synergy there, and we ended up merging late last year. So now Steve is a part of West Creek, and it has been renamed as Creekside Field Kitchen. But he has an outdoor learning garden on site, as well as that hoop house photo is like a live classroom space. So he really teaches kids how to grow food, how to cook with their food, and just really teaching them healthy eating. And then in addition to using the site for that programming, he also goes out to a lot of different school districts and has a mobile kitchen and a van. So it's a really great program. And yeah, there's also, you can see some kids there in the picture, and that picture on the far right was an event that Spice Catering partnered with us for at Creekside Collaborative. They did one of their plated dinners. I don't know if you've heard, they do like boutique catering, plated dinners at different locations. So we did one out at Creekside, and there will be two more later this year. So that's a really cool experience to get a different perspective on some unique properties. And then we also have a lot of events out on the Creekside site. So like I said, we have our spring plant sale coming up. Some other events coming up that we have going on is a spring native garden cleanup. So this is a combo event, like volunteer workshop. So you'll learn how to manage a native garden in the spring. And then we also have a hike and open house happening August 18th. So you'll get to kind of get more of a walking view of the property, go further back on the property, and then have a chance to just chat with staff and ask questions. And then some of the pictures here, we had an open house last spring. We've had some tree planting workshops and tree giveaways, and then we've got some photos from Steve's summer camps when he has the kids out. It looks like they're doing some like potato buckets on that right picture, and they have a lot of fun decorating and doing a little bit of construction as well. And then, like I said, we do really rely on our volunteers at the nursery, so for that native plant propagation, also for our seed library initiative. But we do have volunteer events out at restoration sites doing plantings as well. Like I said, a lot of plants we grow end up at our restoration sites. So we do have volunteer events for those. So it's a cool experience. You get to see one of our properties, and you get to help plant and get outside a little bit. We also have a lot of corporate volunteer events. So sometimes corporations will have an annual volunteer day. So we'll have them out to help with whatever project we have going on or with the planting. And then different public events like our plant sale or annual fundraiser we'll have volunteers out to help with. And then before we get into the specific native plants that we have at our nursery, I just wanted to give some background on, kind of about what native plants are and why they're important. So just with the foundation, native plants are species that have evolved here over thousands of years. So that long history means that they're finely tuned to our soils, our climate, and the wildlife that depends on them. So they really do form the base of our ecosystems, and everything from insects to birds to mammals rely on them for food and for habitat. So they're supporting wildlife in a way that non-native ornamentals simply can't. A lot of insects can only eat specific native plants, and then those insects are essential pollinators for our food systems, and they provide food for birds and frogs and bats and other animals. And then native plants are also going to improve soil health with their deep root systems. They help water soak in, reduce erosion, and they're keeping our waterways clean. And then just a quick comparison to turf grass. With turf grass, you're getting very little food or shelter for wildlife. You have additional maintenance with mowing, fertilizing, and watering. It really compacts the soil, so you're going to get more runoff, which can lead to water pollution and flooding. And this graphic, I think, is really nice to show the difference between how deep native plant roots can go, but compared to that image on the really far left, shows turf grass with just, roots that are not even close to a foot deep, and then some of these native plants are going to 13 feet deep, so they can have quite a big impact. And, we don't need to get rid of lawns, of course, but rethinking how much lawn you need and shrinking your lawn a little bit can have a big difference, especially when homeowners are doing it across a whole neighborhood. Then you can get wildlife corridors and pollinator pathways, healthier soil, cleaner water. And good places to start are just like edges of your yard or under trees. Anything that's difficult to mow is a great spot to turn into pollinator habitat. And then, so again, a part of our programming with the seed library that we spread is shrinking your lawn. And the way that we encourage people to do that is really easy and really cheap. And that's just smothering your grass with cardboard and a layer of 2 to 3 inches of mulch. And if you just put that down on wherever you're trying to turn into your garden, you end up, after a couple months, that cardboard biodegrades, and then you can dig right through it. The grass dies, but the soil stays alive, so you're not killing off those microbes or anything. And that's a really great way to just kind of increase your pollinator habitat in your yard. And then we can talk about some plants that we have. So I'm going to talk mainly about plants that we have at our spring sale if you wanted to come and purchase. And a lot of these, we're really focusing on plants that are going to be beneficial to birds, but we do have a lot more species that I'm going to cover today. So I do encourage you to check out what we have online, or come to the sale on May 23rd. But first we got Black-Eyed Susan. Be really beautiful yellow coneflower. It is a later blooming one, June through October. And you'll see a lot of different pollinators attracted to this. But then these seed heads are going to be really beneficial for birds. They're a good food source. So you'll find finches and chickadees and sparrows and cardinals feeding on them in those later months. And part of maintaining a native garden, we really encourage people to leave up their plants throughout the fall and the winter because you are providing that great food source for our wildlife. And inside a lot of the stems, you'll also have pollinators that will nest in there. And so it's really great to leave all your native garden stuff standing, which makes maintenance a little bit easier. You don't have to manage it until the spring. We've also got cardinal flower, which is a great nectar source for hummingbirds. Really bright red flower, and it has that tube shape that's good for hummingbirds. These really like very damp areas, so if you have a damp area of your yard or a rain garden, they're really good there. And they can tolerate some shade as well. They don't need to be in a lot of sun. We are currently out of stock of these just because they were too small right now, but we have them growing, getting ready for our fall sale, and then it also sounded like Nancy had some available for your plant swap. So maybe you can get some from her as well. And then we've also got New England aster. This one has that beautiful, vibrant purple color, is also a late fall bloomer. And because of that, it can be really helpful for migrating hummingbirds and butterflies for that nectar source. But once those seed heads develop, you'll also find goldfinches and sparrows and juncos feeding on those seed heads. And this one can get pretty tall, as you can see, 6 feet. If it gets really like that tall legginess, it can flop over, but if you cut this down a little bit, it'll just branch out and become a really shrubby atmosphere, shrubby look to it. And then you'll also, because of that shrubbiness and the thickness, you'll see some birds foraging among the stems for insects as well. And then we've got purple coneflower. You guys have probably seen this one. It's like the poster child of native plants. But it's a really nice hardy perennial. Historically, it has been used, I mean, in modern day too, for medicinal benefits. You'll even find it at a lot of grocery stores now. But the seed heads on this one are also a good food source for birds. And this is one where those hollow stems are some nesting sites for native bees. This is another one that was too small for us to have at our spring sale, but they're growing and they'll be ready for our fall sale. Then we've got wild bergamot, or also called bee balm, which has a nice like lavender purple color. You'll also see other Monarda species with like a bright red color. And we also have this tube-shaped flower happening again, which is great for hummingbirds to feed on the nectar. And you'll also see finches and sparrows feeding on the seed heads of this one. And then some kingbirds like to hunt for pollinated insects near the bergamot as well. This is one where you'll just see a ton of insects flying around it all the time. It's really pollinator powerhouse. And then we've got wild strawberry. This is a really nice low growing one that can kind of take over a little bit, so it's really nice as a ground cover. It can be confused with mock strawberry, which also produces that strawberry fruit, but that one has yellow flowers, really similar looking leaves, but the mock strawberry is not going to be native, while the wild strawberry is. It's a nice early bloomer, and the birds love to feed on the fruits. They do taste like strawberries. They are edible, not quite as sweet as, the ones you'd get in the store. And then the leaves will turn a nice, beautiful red color for the fall. And then it'll also, attract some nuthatches, wrens, woodpeckers. So you'll get a whole variety of birds to your yard with this one. We've also got cup plant. This is a very tall plant, so it can get up to 8 feet tall. So that's something to keep in mind if you did want to plant this in your yard. But it is one of those that also just attracts a ton of pollinators. You'll see a lot of butterflies and birds around this one. Birds will feed on the nectar, but you'll see wildlife around it year-round because of the way the leaves kind of enclose around the stem completely. It creates a little cup that holds water, hence the name cup plant. So you'll see a lot of wildlife using that as a water source, which is really cool. And then we've got gray dogwood, which is a shrub. It can handle, a variety of wetness for the soil moisture, but it's pretty low maintenance, and it can provide some nice year-round interest, like most shrubs do, to your yard. But you'll get these beautiful reddish leaves in the fall, and really cool-looking white berries. And the stems do turn a little bit of a reddish color for the fall and winter, so that's nice to leave in your yard. And these white berries are a great food source for migrating birds. More than 40 bird species feed on them, and they are really high in fat content, so it's nice to kind of feed them for a longer distance while they're migrating. And then you'll also see birds nesting in the thickets, since it is a really shrubby plant. So like cardinals and sparrows will use it as a nesting site. And then same genus, we also have red osier dogwood. So pretty kind of a similar plant, but it likes really, really wet areas. And you're going to get those really bright red stems that you can see in that bottom photo, hence the name red osier dogwood. But you're going to have similar berries that feed, again, over 40 bird species, and you're also going to find birds nesting in this one. And then I also wanted to talk about one tree. So we do have some serviceberry, and this is a nice small understory tree. You're going to get some season interest with this as well. You've got these really nice white delicate flowers in the spring, and then a beautiful orange-red color of the leaves in the fall. And then the berries of this one are a lovely attraction for birds. So you'll get robins, catbirds, bluebirds, orioles, thrushes. And then because it is a pretty early season flower, that's really nice, has a nice nectar source for insects. And then the birds will feed on those insects. So we get a whole variety, but again, we will have quite a few more species at our plant sale, so I encourage you to check that out. And then I did just want to mention that while we talked about volunteering, another great way to support us is through a donation. Every donation does help us protect local green spaces and restore native habitats. So just wanted to put that out there. And then we also have our hike series that just went live, I think today.
Yep.
And so I did mention Creekside, Brett, if you want to talk about the other hikes.
Yeah, so we've got a series of hikes, just like you guys have hikes. You can come check out some of our preserves. We'd be happy to have you guys out. We're always trying to get better, bigger and better birding lists for the preserves. Spring Creek Preserve, which is 365 acres, of which I think 320 acres is swamp forest. That is in open marsh. That is in Cuyahoga County. Casement Springs Preserve is in Paynesville and Lake County. This is a 68-acre property that we just purchased 2 years ago and restored last winter, this winter. Just finished up. Actually, we're finishing up this week with some plantings. It's not totally finished yet. But as that restoration happened, you see the birds on the right. We got all kinds of interesting shorebirds that showed up, and obviously the warblers too. Everything showed up in April. It was very, very satisfying and rewarding for us to put in the $2 million it took to buy and restore this property, all and figure that out all winter through all that ice cold snow and everything else. And we had it all done and it looked good, but then we weren't sure if it was going to work. And then, the end of April showed up and we had 300 rough-winged swallows. We had dozens and dozens and dozens of greater and lesser yellowlegs. We had spotted sandpipers, solitary sandpipers, and now the warblers are moving in as well. So we are so excited about this one. We have sort of a sneak peek hike on June 12th that we're going to have, and hopefully we get some breeding birds in that time frame as well for the property list. West Creek Reservation hike on July 19th. We're also going to do a hike on Thompson Ledges North, which is a property we finished up last year. We bought protected 115 acres, which is the northernmost sandstone rock outcropping in Ohio. Thompson Township Park Commission owns this now. We work with them to buy from 4 separate landowners, a pretty complex transaction, and we're extremely happy to show this one off. A ton of rare birds here, ton of rare plants. We've got some interesting dragonflies that are here and some old growth forest as well, mixed in with the ledges, which is really cool. And then Danielle talked about Creekside. So we are excited to be able to present to everyone. I can take questions now. One of the things that you guys can help us do is volunteer to bird with us. When we have these events, we can give you access even on, the middle of the week or Tuesday. If you guys want to come in group to one of our properties, we'd be happy to have you out. I know that Michelle has been to Spring Creek, and we have a lot of folks that are trying to get into these places. Right now, they're all pretty much private, but we can give special access to groups anytime and lead hikes. So if you're interested, it's helpful. And there's always the ability for birders that we need to go out on properties that we're trying to protect. That is one of the themes that we're carrying forward, is this idea of birding with a purpose. You can go out with your birding skills with us, help us identify species that will help us protect these properties. They score well. Rare, threatened, endangered, listed species will score very well on our grant applications. And so your birding can not just be a hobby, but can also help make and protect these larger preserves and smaller ones too that we're working on. So anyway, I'll open it up for questions now if anybody has them. Be happy to answer those, and we can go from there.
I'm just going to add a couple real quick things for our guests, and that we could use birders even at the Creekside Collaborative property too. It would be really, really nice
Yeah.
to have a checklist.
Oh, I think she paused.
the property with an event and they want to know. And that is where we put one of our Purple Martin houses right next to those hoop houses there. So I haven't been out lately due to being crazy busy, but we're getting a couple of volunteers that'll be able to kind of keep an eye on that Martin house and see if we get any takers this year or any ones that are looking for a new housing.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. All of our signature preserves, the ones that we own and manage that aren't going to park districts, we're really trying to get those birding lists together. Whether they're urban or not, it's still very important for everybody to understand what's happening there in terms of birding and why the habitat that we're restoring is important. It's really super satisfying for us, obviously, too, when we do these really complex projects and, the birds show up. That idea from, I can't remember the baseball movie, but if you build it, they will come, and that's
Right.
always fantastic for the staff and for the larger community. So
Yeah, I'm just looking at the chat, and we got a question about dates and times of the events that are going on. So, people, you can look at the website, the West Creek website, for those lists of events and hikes and stuff. Is that right?
that's correct.
I can I can send you a list too, Nancy, but yeah, just westcreek.org/events. It's really easy to remember.
I'll put that in the chat.
Thanks, Brett.
Anyhow, if you're not familiar with where with that Creekside Collaborative is,
Well,
Parma,
it's
Parma Town used to be, yeah, right, it is where it's now the Shoppies of Parma. It's not too far from there. Any other questions? Well, this was fabulous. I've been on a couple of the properties there. I'd like to get out to, I'm not don't go east very much, but I'd like to be able to get out there more often. And thank you, Danielle. Thank you, Brett. Lots of good stuff. Just local and well as reaching out. And I love the idea of the Olympic rings. Yep, yep, yep. Not just one emerald necklace, but yeah, Toledo and Lorain and perfect. I love that.
Yes, that's the vision. That vision is going to extend well beyond our careers, but we can set that in motion now, and people can take that baton and move it forward after we're done. So
Yep. All right. Any other questions? Again, you can either unmute or toss something in the chat. Getting a couple thank yous here. Yeah. Again, we really appreciate your time, your talents, and if anyone wants to volunteer with the plants, it's great fun. Weeding is my specialty.
well,
You're
look at
great at
these
it,
leaders.
Nancy.
Like I don't have enough to do here. All right. Again, thank you. We'll talk again and get that word out. Okay.
Yep. Thank
All
you very
right.
much.
All right.
Yeah,
Have a good
thank you.
evening. Have a good evening, everyone. Stay dry.
Yep.